Hello everybody, welcome back to 2DS Studios. I'm 2DS and I gotta say, what an amazing time to be a Sonic the Hedgehog fan. With Sonic 3 on the way, I am so excited to finally see Shadow the Hedgehog on the big screen.
Hey Shadow, why do you want to go to Mexico so bad? I just love Latinos.
As well as the absolute awesomeness that is Sonic X Shadow Generations. Whatever you do, please, for the life of you, don't forget the Generations part when you look up Sonic X Shadow Generation. And Sega really has been going all in when it comes to Shadow this year, given that they've specifically named 2024 as Fearless Year of Shadow. But then it hit me. The anniversary of the Shadow the Hedgehog game isn't until next year, 2025. Wow, I feel old. And the anniversary of Adventure 2 is also not for a few years now. But you know what Sonic game is celebrating its anniversary? Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles. Not gonna lie, I feel like a lot of people have kind of forgotten about the fact that this year marks the 30th anniversary of not only what's considered one of the greatest games in the series, but also what introduced one of the most iconic characters, being Knuckles the Echidna. It marks 30 years since his creation. Like, that's crazy to think about. Knuckles is one of my favorite characters, along with Shadow, but I can't help but feeling like one of my boys is being a little overlooked. And then another thing hit me. Not only have we gotten Sonic 3 this year, the movie, but we've also gotten the Knuckles TV series. So we got Sonic 3 and Knuckles both as a video game. Then 30 years later, we got Sonic 3 and Knuckles again in the Sonic Cinematic Universe. But yeah, Knuckles and Shadow are two of my favorite characters in the Sonic series, and that's because not a lot of people talk about it, but they're actually really similar if you think about it. And that's what I want to talk about in this video. I'm gonna do a little bit of a character analysis on both Knuckles and Shadow to compare their similarities and their differences. Knuckles the Echidna made his debut back in 1994 with Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles. And that game came out back on the Genesis, so that's how you know Knuckles is an OG. Knuckles is a red echidna that lives by himself on Angel Island as guardian of the Master Emerald, and as the lone survivor of the Echidna race. But one day, the Death Egg crashed into Angel Island, causing it to sink all the way to the ocean. Knuckles has spent most of his life on Angel Island all by himself, so Eggman was the first person he ever met. And when he asked why he was on Angel Island, Eggman lied, saying that Sonic and Tails are actually the bad guys manipulating him so that he can use him to not only steal the Chaos Emeralds from Sonic, but to also take control of the Master Emerald for his own dastardly schemes. And with that, Knuckles began as a rival to Sonic, not only being able to match his speed, but also being extremely strong and a skilled fighter, although he is very gullible. But hey, we can cut him some slack. He's been on this island his whole life. He doesn't really talk to anyone because, well, there's literally no one on the island but him, Chow, I guess. Because he's just trying to do his job, protect the island and the Master Emerald from anyone that would hurt it. Only problem is that he trusts a man with a very obvious evil mustache, and who created a Death Star with his mustache face on it. I love Nux, but how can anyone look at Eggman straight in the eyes and say, yeah, I trust this man? But after constantly trying to stop Sonic and Tails, near the end of the road he realizes that Eggman truly was evil, and he has to team up with Sonic and Tails to save the Master Emerald in Angel Island. After this, Sonic and Knuckles become good friends, to the point where Knuckles becomes a part of Team Sonic. Man, I want to play Sonic Heroes again now. And he learned to never trust Eggman again.
There's Sonic. Eggman was right.
God damn it, Knuckles. In Sonic Adventure 1, an ancient being known as Chaos breaks out of the Master Emerald, spreading its shards across the world. So Knuckles has to go find all those shards to restore the Master Emerald, but then he runs into Dr. Eggman again, who uses this opportunity to trick Knuckles once more. Have you learned nothing, you knucklehead? And Eggman tries to control Chaos so he can take over the world, but Chaos ends up betraying him by using the power of the 7 Chaos Emeralds to turn into a water worse than Dasani, which only the power of Supersonic and one of the greatest Crush 40 songs can solve. Although Knuckles and the rest of Sonic's friends were able to help too in getting the Chaos Emeralds. But I know you're probably thinking one of two things. One, why was Chaos in the Master Emerald? And two, if you remember earlier in the video I said how Knuckles was the last Echidna, but where did the other Echidnas go? Allow me to tell you about the history of the Knuckles clan. Long ago, there was a clan of Echidnas in the Mystic Ruins known as the Knuckles clan, led by Chief Pachacamac. the chief's daughter Tikal discovered a place known as the Altar of Emerald, inhabited by chaos and a peaceful race of small creatures known as Chow. The altar contained emeralds of great power, the Master Emerald, and the 7 Chaos Emeralds. Chief Pachacamac sought to steal the emeralds by force. Tikal tried to stop the clan from raiding the altar, but it was too late. The clan trampled over Tikal and the Chow, causing chaos to transform into perfect chaos. Nearly the whole clan was wiped out, but Tikal, using an ancient prayer, sealed herself and chaos into the Master Emerald. Few survived, and the remaining Echidnas used the emerald's power to suspend Angel Island into the sky. And after being humbled by this cataclysmic attack, the Knuckles clan devoted the rest of their lives to protecting the Master Emerald by anyone that would choose to harm it, in an attempt to prevent history from repeating itself. Fast forward 3,000 years into the present, Knuckles is the last Echidna to carry the responsibility of guarding the Master Emerald and Angel Island. I know, you're probably thinking, holy shit, dude, this took a really serious turn. And if you thought that went serious, buckle up. We're about to go into the darkest backstory in the entire Sonic franchise. The loss, the horrors, the tragedy, Project Shadow, and the creation of the ultimate life form. 50 years ago aboard the space colony Ark, there was a professor known as Dr. Gerald Robotnik in charge of a top-secret research project to create the ultimate life form through the combination of chaos energy and the DNA of an alien race known as the Black Arms. The ultimate life form was born, and his name is Shadow the Hedgehog. Shadow's DNA had the potential ability to cure Gerald's granddaughter Maria of an incurable illness. Through experimentation and taking care of Maria, Shadow grew a very close attachment to those on the Ark, becoming somewhat of a family. Especially with Maria, who Shadow considered a best friend, dreaming of what it would be like to finally go to Earth and cure Maria of her illness. But Gun had different plans for Shadow, planning to use him as a weapon of mass destruction to aid them in war. But after growing frustrated with the lack of progress, Gun took matters into their own hands to destroy everything related to Project Shadow. Gun's soldiers raided the Ark to destroy any and all evidence, and to kill any researchers involved with the project. Maria and Shadow had to run to the escape pods, but only Shadow was able to escape, with Maria sacrificing herself. Fast forward 50 years later into the present day, Gerald's grandson Ivo Robotnik, also known as Eggman, breaks into Prison Island to free Shadow from his 50-year stasis. Once Shadow has awakened, he is more than ready to get his revenge for what the humans did all those years ago. To get revenge for Maria's death. To destroy the world. Eggman and Shadow team up to gather all the Chaos Emeralds so they can charge the laser cannon on the Ark in order to destroy Earth. But one night in San Francisco, after Shadow finds a Chaos Emerald, he meets the Blue Hedgehog himself. Sonic had previously been arrested because the government had mistaken Sonic for Shadow.
Now I know what's going on. The military has mistaken me for the likes of you.
Because all hedgehogs look the same. Fucking racists. Now you guys are probably thinking, but why would Shadow destroy Earth if him and Maria always dreamed of going there, right? Well, Shadow is very motivated by his anger and revenge at this point, and due to being in stasis for so long, his memory is a little hazy. But after rivaling each other the whole game, Amy is able to talk sense into Shadow, and he finally remembers what Maria truly wanted, realizing that it's not too late to save Earth. He teams up with Sonic, they go super and beat the final hazard, and you hear one of the greatest pieces of video game music, period. But in defeating the final hazard, Shadow unfortunately has to sacrifice himself, fulfilling Maria's wish to give everyone on Earth the chance to be happy.
Sayonara, Shadow the Hedgehog.
Or at least that's what we thought. Rouge, sneaking aboard one of Eggman's airships working for Gun, she finds Shadow still alive in a capsule. Rouge frees Shadow, but he has amnesia, not remembering anything about what happened in Adventure 2. Shadow was originally supposed to die in Adventure 2, but he was so popular and beloved by fans they had to bring him back. So they did so in Sonic Heroes, and with his own spin-off game, Shadow the Hedgehog. They didn't really do a lot with Shadow in Sonic Heroes, so they saved all his story for the spin-off game. And in the Shadow the Hedgehog game, Shadow learns of his heritage from the Black Arms. As they begin their invasion on Earth, It's up to him to figure out his past, defeat the Black Arms, and save the world. And the leader of the Black Arms is Black Doom, who back when Shadow was first created, he collaborated with Dr. Gerald in order to use his DNA to create Shadow. But Gerald didn't trust Black Doom, and knowing that the Black Arms invasion would happen in 50 years, the Ark's laser cannon was actually designed to destroy the Black Comet that would cause the Black Arms to take over Earth. And thanks to Shadow, he was able to stop the Black Arms and save the world, and become a true hero, just like Maria would have wanted. I love Shadow's story so much. It gets a little complicated when it comes to the Black Arms stuff, trying to piece everything together. But after all these years, I finally figured out, and even though the actual Shadow the Hedgehog game isn't the best, Shadow's origin story will never not be interesting to me. And I really love seeing his journey from villain to hero. Now that we've gone over both Shadow and Knuckles' origin stories, it's time to compare the two to see what makes them so similar to one another. Two characters associated with the color red to contrast with their blue rival, who are personalized as strong and stoic loners due to their tragic backstories involving deaths of those closest to them, making them lone survivors of the darkest events in the entire franchise, who both start off as rivals of Sonic, teaming up with Eggman to take the Chaos Emeralds, but after a change of heart, they choose to join Sonic to save the day and become friends. With both characters debuting in sequels, with their origin stories being detailed in the adventure game specifically, and having connections to the Chaos Emeralds and Rouge the Bat. Overall, if you boil down their origin stories, they are basically the same, but the real differences when it comes to Shadow and Knuckles comes in the way they act because of their origins. Knuckles is a loner because he doesn't really have quite as much of a choice. He was born and raised by himself on Angel Island for his whole life, stuck guarding the Master Emerald until he met Sonic and Tails. So Knuckles being tricked by Eggman couldn't really be all of his fault because he didn't really know any better at the time. But after Adventure 1, Sonic and Knuckles have long since become established friends, especially with him being a core member of Team Sonic. Shadow, on the other hand, aside from being a core member and leader of Team Dark, Shadow is usually relatively closed off when it comes to forming friendships. Not that he doesn't have friends at all, far from it. It's just that he kind of keeps to himself. He's very introverted compared to Sonic being an extrovert. And Shadow's introverted nature is most likely caused from his tragic backstory with Maria. Shadow and Maria were extremely close to one another until she died on the Ark. Meanwhile, Knuckles never really got to connect with any other Echidnas because he was already the last one. Knuckles basically lost his entire family, friends, his whole race before he was even born. He's kind of like the last airbender of the Sonic universe. While Shadow is a little closer to Zuko. Another thing about them is their design. The Sonic series is no stranger when it comes to absolute peak character design, with Knuckles and Shadow being no exception. Specifically when it comes to designing rivals to Sonic, Knuckles and Shadow both succeed for different reasons. Although one of the similar traits they both share is having red as the primary part of their color palette. Knuckles perfectly completes the primary color trio, and his red fur, white crescent, boxing gloves, and dreadlocks really make him stand out compared to Sonic. That's a big thing that I really like about Team Sonic, is that they all look so distinct from one another. You can really tell each character's strengths just by looking at them. Meanwhile, Shadow is very much living up to his namesake in a way, essentially being the darker Shadow version of Sonic, because he's black. The Black One. Which makes sense because according to the lore, Gerald took inspiration from this mural from Sonic 3, depicting Super Sonic against Eggman. So in a way, Gerald designed Shadow after Sonic without really even knowing Sonic. Specifically designing Shadow after Sonic's super form, hence why his quills are curled up. And if you were to look at just their silhouettes, I can understand why someone would confuse Shadow for Sonic. Also, both of their original homes are both suspended above Earth, with Knuckles being from Angel Island and Shadow being created in space! But back to their rivalries with Sonic, where Knuckles and Sonic became friends, Sonic and Shadow still remain rivals to this day, to some extent. You see, even after Adventure 2 and games like Heroes, Shadow the Hedgehog, really all the modern games post-Adventure 2, it's clear that Sonic and Shadow are allies. But despite being allies, they still have somewhat of a friendly rivalry between one another. They aren't full-on enemies anymore, but they do occasionally clash with one another, which has often made people categorize Shadow as something closer to an anti-hero. But if you ask me, I think Shadow is still a hero, but he definitely has a different line of thinking compared to Sonic. Saying Sonic is a hero and Shadow's an anti-hero to me feels like saying Batman's an anti-hero yet Superman is a hero. When really, both of them are heroes, they just do things in different ways. Now I'm trying to think who would be the Sonic equivalent to Jason Todd. I point this out, and in general a big reason why I made this video is because Knuckles and Sonic being rivals hasn't really been a thing ever since the 90s, and part of me never even realized that until Sonic 2 came out. The movie, not the game. And it made me realize that, yeah, Knuckles and Sonic were legit rivals at one point in time, similar to how Shadow's depicted as his rival even today. I always found it kind of weird in a way that where Knuckles and Sonic's rivalry kind of died down, Shadow to this day will always be seen as the rival to Sonic. But if you ask me, we wouldn't have Shadow if it wasn't for Knuckles. Shadow is an amazing character who definitely deserves the title of being Sonic's rival, but Knuckles deserves the same treatment too for paving the way. And that's why I personally want to call this the year of Shadow and Knuckles. Got two major projects featuring Shadow, the movie and Shadow Generations, but also the 30th anniversary of Sonic 3 and Knuckles and the Knuckles TV show. Everyone wins! Before I close this video out, I want to give massive props to João Fillipe Santiago for his amazing work with the Project Shadow fan film. I used a few clips of it to recap Shadow's origin story, and I highly recommend checking out the film for yourself. It is truly amazing, and it's recently gotten a few awards. Definitely check out his channel and give this man the flowers he deserves. In fact, he's recently released a Sonic vs. Shadow animation, which is pretty tough. All his fan films have great animation and great voice acting, with a specific highlight being the voice of Shadow, whose voice I've actually featured in my first animatic. He goes by Random Goon VO on all his social platforms. He's really funny and a very talented voice actor. But I think this is enough Sonic lore for one day. Thank you all so much for watching this video, it means a lot to me. And if you like this video, feel free to like, subscribe, and check out the rest of my channel. Comment what other videos like this you want me to make, because I would totally be down for making more character analysis videos like this. Especially with a wide cast like Sonic's. And if you're watching this around Christmas or whatever holiday it is, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and have a Happy New Year. And thankfully, I'm about to get this video out by the time Sonic 3 comes out. And if anyone spoils this movie for anyone, I will look for you. I will find you. And I will kill you. When we're done, there won't be anything left. This has been 2DS Studios, and until next time, stay tuned and stay cool.